City Council. Please rise and join us in our pledge to our nation's flag.
It is Lafayette, Indiana.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Here.
Nargi.
Here.
Snyder.
Present.
Reynolds.
Present.
Weiss.
Here.
Allersmeyer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
Downing.
Present.
Brown.
Here.
Quorum present.
We're echoing.
Is
Yeah, we
somebody's
are
little
echoing.
speaker on or something? I heard an echo, and
We need to turn it down just a hair, or
maybe one of these, are these boxes
we'll
on?
talk about the microphone?
No, I think they're not quite done. Yeah, he said they're not quite
Testing.
done.
Approval of the minutes.
See?
I move for the approval of the September 6th regular meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Reports of city offices on file with the city clerk's office.
Fleet maintenance monthly August. Renew department monthly August. Waterworks department monthly August.
Remember, those, excuse me, those reports are in the clerk's office for your perusal. If you want to know how we're spending your money, that's how. Go in there and take a look.
I thought maybe turning that off would help.
Moving on to ordinances for second reading.
Ordinance 2022-33, an ordinance to amend section 2.01.260 of the Lafayette Municipal Code, Council District.
Mr. Clinker,
I move we hear that on second reading.
Second. All right, very good. As we discussed last month, every 10 years, the city is required to redistrict its council districts. We presented last month a new map, which you will see in a larger form over there. This map keeps the districts as close as possible to the current existing council districts while taking into account the new precincts and keeping a population deviation of under 5% between the districts. And I can answer any questions anyone has.
are there any questions from the council on ordinance 2022-33 and your new districts? There being none, any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-33? Madam Clerk?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Weiss.
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Mr. President, why don't we give Andy just a moment to see if him or Sue together somehow can, because it wasn't doing this last month, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Maybe we
Yeah.
Yeah, we did too. We turned ours all the way.
check.
Check.
It is disorienting.
Well, if it stays that way, you guys are gonna luck out. My presentation will be a lot shorter.
Don't touch it. Don't
It's hard not to go like,
Or you
great
can
is
stand
spectacle
next
and
to it.
racing. I don't know, if we turn our volume down.
Need to reboot?
Reboot. Good evening, Mr. President, City Council. I fixed the echo, by the way. You're welcome. Here to present the operating and capital budget for City Bus. Please forgive me if I don't know intimate details of every piece and part, but this is my third week with City Bus, so I am somewhat new on the job. I'm happy to say that we have revenues to cover our expenses, and thought I would just draw your attention to a few increases that are outside the norm, so that you were aware of it, and then really offer up myself to answer any questions to the best of my ability. Our life and health insurance has increased significantly from 2022. We have an increase in our head count and a 13% increase in health insurance costs. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody to hear that our health insurance is going up. Another non-surprise is that our commodities, the diesel and gasoline, as well as the natural gas that we buy to heat the building and to fuel the buses, have all risen significantly. And then lastly, our contractual maintenance services have increased significantly, and that's in large part due to the inflation. That's our services that we buy from vendors, and they're passing on the inflation that they see onto us. And the last one, I'm sorry, that wasn't the last one. The very last one would be that our premium for liability and property coverage is increasing. We had a carrier that was a long-term carrier, and they left the market. And so, based on preliminary numbers from our broker, we can estimate a fairly substantial increase this year. And with that, I say, Mr. President, that's my last one. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one. How are you doing with staffing?
We are in need of drivers. We're in need of mechanics, as well as several positions in the office at the moment.
Same as everybody else, I guess.
I do have a question. You're offering free rides to students again this year with school ID. Will that continue next year, even with the increases in your budget?
I wouldn't want to promise that, but I believe that would be our intent, yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the council? Are there any other questions, are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-34?
Mr. President, I am going to jump in with a question. Are the routes, you think everywhere around the city will be the same? Are you planning any new routes to any factories or new areas that you've heard of?
Well, one of the things that I promised the board when they interviewed me was that for the first 3 months, I was going to try to learn as much as I could.
Okay.
I would think that it looks like there's an opportunity for an overall look at our plan and our long-range plan, and look at where our routes go. It has been a while, according to staff, since that's been done.
Okay.
So I would imagine that'll be part of my first year.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, I already told you what I'd like to see, so.
Yes, sir.
The attorney in audit, can you, I know you haven't had a chance to do a lot, but that's a substantial jump. Is there any particular reason?
There is. We are planning on entering negotiations with our union for a 2024 renewal. And so we do have some money set aside so that I can do work with a labor attorney and make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row for that negotiation.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-34?
I have a quick question.
Please,
The question was asked about.
please come to the podium. Tell us your name and address, and then start talking.
Thank you for that. My name is Susan Briette. My address is 1002 Highland, Lafayette, Indiana, 47905.
Yes, ma'am.
And my question is kind of a follow-up to the expansion of routes. Is there any additional access on weekends that you're looking at to public bus transportation?
And actually, ma'am, my answer would be the same, that looking at what we have, not only the geographic area that we cover, but the timeframes and the days of the week would all be part of an overall long-range plan.
So you understand that we as the city of Lafayette, the public, we want more and more and more.
I can appreciate that.
More of your product. Thank you so much, sir. Are there any other questions from the public? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Blinker,
Aye.
Margie,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Reese,
Aye.
Allersmeyer,
Aye.
Williamson,
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On to ordinance number 2022-35.
The 2023 budget ordinance, an ordinance appropriating money for the purpose of defraying the expenses of several departments of the city government of the city of Lafayette, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023, including the outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time when the same shall take effect.
Can you still do that without taking a break? What is the pleasure of the council?
I move for consideration of ordinance 2022-35 on first reading.
Mrs. Alsmeyer? Oh,
Ms. Williamson, got it?
okay, we have a motion and a second. All right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. President. I am honored to be before you this evening to present the 2023 budget for the city of Lafayette. And it looks like the microphone is working okay, so you're going to get my full presentation. So sit back and buckle up. Open up your water there, and I got mine over there, and here we go. So before you tonight is the 2023 budget. As I said, I'd first like to thank Jeremy Deal and his staff and all the department heads who worked diligently on this budget. I'd also like to thank Cindy Murray and her staff and City Attorney Jackie Chosnick, who help us stay on task and help us stay on our timelines and all of our legal requirements to get this done. It truly is a team effort, and everybody puts forth a lot of time getting to this point that you see this evening. As I've said before, but it bears repeating, we don't just look at last year's budget and start there. We actually go back to zero-based budgeting, look at all the historical data, emerging trends, new platforms of services that we might want to provide, anticipate future changes, and then, of course, factor in the unexpected, which always seems to happen. We look at current cash balances, we look at expected cash balances and how that plays into what we feel we can do. If we need to roll that over, if we need to save it, we look at how that might be used in the best possible manner at the best possible time to get the most for our dollars, and then, of course, inflationary factors. And as we were talking today at the staff meeting, I don't know if I'll get this right or not, but concrete's going up $6 a cubic yard, and then by the end of the year, another $16 a cubic yard. Then by the end of the year, another $16, and into the new year, another $16. So we're going to have to really evaluate what we do with the concrete work next year as we look at the road work. So we factor in those types of things to make sure that we understand what we can do and where we're going. As always, public safety is our top and our first priority. And as you will see in this budget, it is once again our top priority. The interesting thing that's a little bit different than in the past is we will not have to trim too much of this budget. It's going to have to be tweaked a little bit, but it's just about where it needs to be. And again, I want to thank Jeremy and his team, the department heads, the council, everybody for being fiscally responsible over the years and being able to continue to build that resiliency, be able to build the ability for sustainability in what we do when it comes to pay raises and equipment and those types of things. It's really important that we don't take a short-term view of what we're trying to do, but we take a long-term sustainable view of the incomes that we have and the cash balances that we have to ensure that what we do we can carry on into the future. Some basic information that I think is important for you to know. The growth quotient for 2023 was 5%. That's, I think, the highest growth quotient I remember since I've been here, so that was strong. That equates to about $2 million over all the tax levied funds. That's about $2 million of growth in those particular funds. That's a pretty good year for us because with the growth quotient being that high. The assessed value, this is really good. The assessed value for the city of Lafayette grew by 7.5%. So our AV actually outpaced the growth quotient, and that's what you want to see. That 7.5% represents $269 million in new AV. That's a substantial jump. So when you look at a community, if you're growing, if the things are stable, these numbers say that to us, right? That we're in a good position financially, the community's in a good position, there are lots of jobs here and those types of things. And so we had a good place to start from this year with that kind of news. Just so you have the information, and as a matter of public record, the total AV for last year was $3,552,739,763. And this year, with the increase, the new AV is $3,821,672 and 405. So good jumps there, and we're moving in a very positive direction. So that is good news for us and good news for our citizens. The local income tax was up about 2.25 million. So again, lots of people working, lots of good wages, people probably getting maybe even some overtime because that is also a good number for us. It demonstrates healthy incomes and a healthy economy. So like I said, we were able to start from a very strong position this year. So let's first look at the general fund. I'm sure you have your sheet there in front of you that's been provided by our controller's office. So if you want to look at the we're going to start with the general fund, and I'm going to go over some of the major changes in the general fund. As you know, and I think you all agree, our team members are our greatest asset, and as I said before, public safety is our #1 priority. As you know, the majority of our departments, including police, fire, and sanitation, are the 3 largest in the general fund. This year, the general fund is up $3,053,850, and I want to explain some of the reasons behind those increases. First of all, we gave civilian employees a 5% raise. So we wanted to do as much in the raise category as we could. We know there's a lot of inflationary pressure on our citizens and on our employees, just like everybody else. And so we wanted to do as much as we could, and we felt 5% was what we were able to give. So the civilian raise for this year will be 5%, when we hope that with inflation, we know that's still a little tough, but we're going to hope that that helps make a difference for all of our team members and their families. Our insurance premiums went up this year. As you know, we've had 2 years of basically zero and 1 year where it actually went down just a little bit. This year it did go up 6.5%, but we did beat medical trend, and we did beat what many of other folks saw as for increases. As you know, we are part of the AIM Medical Trust, and we're part of about 40-some cities who, as a pool, purchase our healthcare insurance together. And because of the number of people and the strength behind that, we are able to keep those premiums in check. And so we feel good about that for our employees and our budget moving forward. I know there was a question that came in today from one of the council members, and I want to make sure that I covered it tonight. We have a negotiated contract with the Fraternal Order of Police and with the fire department. The fire department is actually unionized. The Fraternal Order of Police is not a union organization, but they are a bargaining group here with the city. A couple years ago, we negotiated a contract with both of them to institute what's called longevity pay. And that's something, excuse me, that they really wanted. And to get that started, because that's quite a financial investment, they agreed in their contract to several years of taking 2% raises to be able to get the longevity pay started. Last year, we were still able to give a 3% raise, which is above what the contract says we have to do. And we're going to be able to do that again this year. We'll be giving a 3% raise to police and fire, which is actually a percent above what the contract says we have to give them. In addition to that, there was a new state law that allows us to add some pay to certain years of service on those two departments. We are not calling that longevity pay. We are calling that senior pay in recognition of those officers at the 21, 22, 23, and 24 year mark in their careers with either the police or the fire department. And that senior pay will be at the 21-year mark will be an additional $1,000, the 22-year mark, $2,000, the 23-year mark, $3,000, and at the 24-year mark, $4,000 additional dollars. That's on the $4,700. That is the max longevity, that is actually longevity at the 20-year mark. So somebody with 24 years now will be getting $8,750 additional dollars added to their pay. To give you some idea what that is with the longevity and the senior officer pay, I just picked out 3 kind of milestones. A 10-year officer, this does not include any pay that they might be getting for what's called a specialty, something they do on the fire department or the police department. It's kind of outside their normal job duties. We also pay additional for specialty pay, but since that varies widely, that is not included in this number. So with these new figures and the new senior pay, a 10-year officer or journeyman fireman will make $71,779 a year. A 20-year officer or journeyman fireman will make $74,779 a year, and at the 24-year mark, will make $78,779 a year. So with a couple specialties, a 24-year person could easily be at $80,000. So we're working very hard to keep those competitive, and we want to be able to do that, and we feel that we are able to do that, and we'll continue to look at how to adjust back and forth between longevity and senior officer pay. The longevity stops at the 20-year mark, and that's what the certified salary is for pension purposes. But in the future, we'll see about revamping the overall longevity senior pay to see if we can mold that in a way to help with that certified salary number also for pension purposes going forward. That is certainly our long-term goal here. Just so you know, longevity pay is actually paid out of the public safety income tax, so it is not actually paid out of the general fund, but I wanted to include it in this discussion to give you a comprehensive look at how these salaries and these various negotiated pieces are put together and how they come together to make that final total number that we have for our folks in public safety. If you look at your paperwork, you'll see that for the fire department, the overall general fund increase was $1,057,870. The police increase was $1,595,400. So if you put together those two by themselves, it comes to $2,653,270. So that is almost the entire general fund increase is the additional benefits to police and fire. Like I said, public safety is our biggest priority. The next largest department in the general fund is sanitation. Sanitation increase was $108,510. So when you subtract that out, we're down to $292,070 for the rest of the entire general fund, but the raises are in there and everything. So when you hear a $3 million increase in the general fund, that's bigger than we typically do, but we had cash balances, and we did so well that we were able to do that with the 5% and the 3% for the police and fire. So the vast majority of this is, as it always is payroll, pensions, all of those types of things. So I'd stop, I'm not done, but I would stop right there to see if there's any questions about the general fund portion of the budget. I hope I've made that pretty clear. Okay. All right, let's go on to the rest of the budget. The overall budget is up $8,350,648. We just talked about what $3,053,850 of that is out of the general fund. And that leaves us $5,296,798. And I'm going to explain what gets us to that point. So in the second half of the budget, when you look at the motor vehicle highway department, they're up about, well, the whole thing's up about 700 and some thousand, but just in the MVH department alone, they're up $665,280. The reason for that is we went to, as you know, we paved a lot of roads. I think we're up to about 15 miles, 16 miles of roads. We did a lot of paving in-house. It saves us money, and quite frankly, it's hard for companies to get to all the work they have. In fact, they were here paving for a while this summer, and we lost them for quite a while to the Frankfurt School Corporation because they got a contract to pave all their parking lots at all the schools. So in-house paving is becoming more and more important for us to be able to do. So in this budget, there is a new truck and a new roller that's much bigger than the roller that we currently have. The roller that we currently have is not quite as large as we need to do as much paving as we're doing in-house. And so that's a lot of the expense in there is for that new truck and that roller. To put that into perspective, and we don't have all the bills done yet because they're still coming in, but I got an update just before I walked down here from Jeremy Granard, our city engineer, and he was piecing it together. He believes that the in-house paving just in 1 year, this year alone, saved us $1.5 million if we'd have been paying somebody else to do it. So that's already more than double what we're going to spend here. And so we feel that continuing to do in-house work is beneficial to us. So that's a portion of it there. If you continue on, you'll see the Parks and Recs Department is up $734,134. We've got beautiful parks. They're in great shape, but they are used and used and used. So you will find that most of that increase, about 400 and some thousand of that, is in park maintenance. I mean, you've got to take care of stuff, and you know, all of our parks, if you go to them, they are packed and they are crowded, and we want to make sure that we keep them nice. So there again, that's a significant number. Next, if you look at our EDIT, our economic development income tax, you'll see that it's up $3,090,994. We are looking at doing some additional things. As you know, the city of Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County is working together to build a new animal shelter. We felt that it was time to go a different direction from Almost Home and collaborate with the two local units of government and go in with our own animal shelter that will be run by a new not-for-profit organization. So our commitment to that is $2.5 million. So $1.5 million of the 3 million you see there is what we put in for 2023 for the animal shelter, because it's not going to get done in 2023, it'll be 2024. So we budgeted part of that in there. That's part of what that money is. We're also going to do a full tuck pointing of the entire McAllister Recreational Center. So that'll be somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. But the building overall is still in great shape, and we want to preserve it. There's a lot of wonderful, very affordable programs there for people, and great camps that are very affordable for people, and we want to make sure that we take care of that building. A little extra money in here for next year's road paving, because we want to continue to do a lot of paving. We also did get notice, as I'm sure everybody did, that electric rates are going to go up again. So we put in an extra $195,000 for increased electric bills, $100,000 for increased natural gas bills, and about $104,000 for increased tipping fees for street and sanitation. So that makes up that entire amount there. Like I said, Parks and Rec. CUMCAP Development's got $400,000 in it. We had cash. It's a healthy budget. We may spend that. We may not. I mean, just depends what we need to do and what comes up. Public safety income tax is up $235,928, another strong sign. So when you add those together, that's $5,126,336 of the $5,296,798 that it's up. So the rest is kind of small miscellaneous items. Our rainy day fund is still strong. We had about $6.42 million in the rainy day fund. We are looking at the end of the year, we should close out our edit. Even with our road paving what we need, getting all our bills paid up, we are still estimating that we are going to have about $5,137,797 left of cash reserve in the edit fund. All of our operating accounts have cash surplus balances in them. This is a fully funded budget. All police and fire positions are fully funded. That probably won't happen because recruits are hard to find, but if we would get lucky, and we would, it's fully funded and we can do it. We won't have to say no. We'll be able to take the people on that we need. So we're very pleased about that. Just to finish up then, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. At the beginning, I talked about our AV growth and how it outpaced the growth quotient. So I'm pleased to announce, and we've got to put this in perspective because it sounds strange. So we had great growth. We had a strong AV. Not all the money we're spending is new money, right? Some of the money is money we saved during COVID, couldn't get vehicles and different things. So we're using money that we saved. So it's not all new money. So with that being said, that we will actually be able to lower the tax rate for our citizens with this budget. The tax rate last year was 1.1526, and the tax rate for this year should be 1.1252. So not huge, but we were able to do everything we need to do and still lower the tax rate for the citizens of our community, and still in with cash balances that put us in a good position to be sustainable and to do things year after year after year. You know, you could look and say, well, you've got lots of money and just do this or don't do that. Or I'm looking 5 and 10 years down the road, right? How do you sustain raises? How do you sustain insurance? How do you sustain this equipment that we need? We've seen gigantic price fluctuations right now. So I feel like we have used a common sense, practical approach, just like citizens would use if they're sitting around their kitchen table. What do we spend? What's important? What's our priorities? What do we save our money for and then buy this year or this year and not spend it too quick? And what do we make sure that we have in our savings? So if there is a problem, we've got some cushion, and I feel like we've taken that approach to this budget. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
I think Brian's gone already, but the GLPTC guys said they had a 13% health insurance. Are they not able to take advantage of the AIM Trust?
no, it's for cities and towns.
So even though their budget's under, they can't, they're not, even though their
No.
budgets are,
No.
need voted on?
No,
Yeah.
we don't have enough control over operations and different things to take the risk within the trust. Our trust probably has 50, I'd have to ask Kim or Amber, but we may have close to 50, $60 million now in cash reserves that allows us to buy down rates,
Yep.
do zero, and we're not going to risk
Sure.
only taking on people that qualify and get through the formula to ensure that we don't risk what the rest of us have built up over the last 10 or 12 years.
I got a question there.
Yes.
Is, just to make more clarification to public, is that when you're talking about police and fire senior pay and all of that, that isn't part of their retirement. That doesn't go on their base of their retirement, correct?
No, that's correct. That's what I said. That's why we're calling it senior pay.
Yeah.
The longevity of 4,700 does go on their pension.
Right.
And that's the certified 20-year. The rest after it, we're calling senior pay, and it doesn't go on it because if you do that, that changes a lot of money that you have to put in. So I've talked to the fire and the police departments, both. I've said, if we want to get to where some more of that is put on the actual certified salary, some of the folks that are getting longevity pay at 4 years, 5 years, may have to give that up to tack some of that on the end here to help cover that if we wanted to get it to the to get that in part of the certified. And I told them we could reopen the contracts and talk about that
I just want
next
to
year.
make sure, because I know we're going to both hear from some retirees and want to know what this is all
Sure,
about.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. We want to be as transparent as possible.
With the significant fuel price increases, are all the the collars for like Maverick Energy, are they still doing their?
Yeah, actually, you know, we're talking about decatherms of natural gas and megawatts of electricity. The gasoline hedge fund through Maverick Energy and the bond bank has worked well, that Jeremy did not actually, correct me if I'm wrong, actually have to budget any additional fuel costs. We did not have to. We've made money for a while.
Yeah.
We've actually, so we are not budgeting any extra fuel costs for next year. Again, I can't thank all of you and Jeremy and the department heads enough. I mean, they're doing things right, and we're not in a fuel mess like a lot of people are right now.
And those companies' outlook are good too? They'll stay in business with, I mean, they're not gonna eventually say, no, we're not offering that anymore?
Well, it's through the Indiana Bond Bank and
Okay.
through Maverick Energy on the NYMEX. Based on NYMEX, so
So it's still,
if it crashes or anything else, we all got a lot of big problems going on, so I
okay.
may have to come pick you up on a bike.
On Ninth Street.
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if you would.
Yes, sir.
You made it a point to say that we've saved $1.5 million plus or minus self-performing asphalt and all that good stuff, which is fantastic. Is there any efforts going to be made to look at doing concrete in the near future? Is that something you want to entertain, or has it been kicked around?
We have a few folks that are pretty good at forming and finishing. We're not quite as good at that as we are at
Sure.
laying asphalt. I wouldn't say, and we do some, like small sidewalks where it lifts itself up, or small areas of curbing or things like that. But we have typically not done long runs, and as I know you're well aware, you know, they got that curb machine that it's so, I kind of have to weigh where that trade-off is, right? Where's the point of diminished return on your investment at that, with time and equipment? But we certainly keep an open mind to it, and I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think that having done this before, it's not an easy task, and I want to commend you and city clerk and department heads, certainly Jeremy, because I know what the controller has to go through to try to get this all jigsaw puzzled together. But I think this is a very good budget and takes care of the citizens of Lafayette in a kind manner, a good manner. And one small thing I would like to mention, I know it's not a big part of the budget, but I know that a lot of our particularly elderly citizens in Lafayette enjoy the band, the Citizens Band, every year. And so I would just like to thank you and Jeremy and the city for making sure that we still have that money in there for our citizens to be able to enjoy those, because that's a wonderful thing that we
Yep,
have.
it's an
every year.
iconic piece of Lafayette, that's
It
for
is,
sure.
It is, and I know that the musicians appreciate it, but I think the people particularly appreciate the fact that they're able to go down there and enjoy our beautiful plaza with wonderful music by talented musicians.
Very talented local people.
Very talented.
Yep. All right,
Any
thank you.
questions? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-35? Yes, sir.
Pearl Speakman, 923 South 22nd Street, Lafayette, Indiana, 47905. There's one thing I want to bring out. The police are important, the fire are important. But of all the people up here, how many people have to work on Christmas and holidays when your wife and kids sitting at home? Now, I don't know what kind of compensation that you're making for these sanitary workers, because I started as a nurse's aide at the home, at the veterans home, and worked my way up to supervisor. I've had my hands in everything. These sanitary workers are out there on Christmas, Thanksgiving, all the holidays. They should be given the same thing as a policeman and a fireman. That's all I got to say. Be fair. All of us is sitting home eating turkey, watching football. And Tony's watching football. Kevin, all you guys.
Tony worked a lot of
But
Christmas
you know what?
holidays.
As a non-union worker, I worked a lot of days. I worked a lot of overtime. But I know it's too late this year, but next year, I think you should have more respect for your sanitary workers, because they got the dirtiest, filthiest, hardest job in this city.
Sir, I'd just like to point out that they are getting a 5% raise.
I'm talking about they should be getting more. If you got 3 departments that has to work on holidays and you're sitting at home eating turkey, you don't deserve a turkey.
I understand what you, but I just want you to know that while
I
the police and
understand that.
fire are getting 3%, the rest of the employees are getting 5%. And fortunately, they do not have to work on holidays, thank God. They do get to be home with their families. The sanitation does get to be home with their families.
I just want to, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Speakman for his comments, but I do want to make it clear that our sanitation workers are paid actually quite well when you look at their hourly rate. And although, again, I appreciate the comment, I don't believe that the two jobs of police and fire and sanitation from a pay scale is something that I would recommend to this council. So I want to be respectful, but I also want to be transparent. I feel there is a difference, and I also want to also indicate that the sanitation workers do work on those holidays, but that is their choice. We do not ask them to work any of the holidays. If they want to, they can work them for double time, and so they, as a group, choose which holidays they work. So they are not mandated by us to work on designated city holidays. That is something they choose to do, and then we pay them double time for the ones that they choose to work on. So that's not something we are making them do. They are choosing to do that.
And they don't work Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's Day either.
Right,
Those are their 3 holidays they're off.
That's the 3 they take off,
Yeah.
that they choose to take off.
We're very appreciative of all our city
I
employees,
was
so
gonna say.
I think the citizens are very, very fortunate to have the city employees that we have. We have very hard-working city employees from top to bottom, including our mayor. And I think that the citizens of Lafayette are very, very lucky to have all of the employees that we have here in Lafayette.
Amen.
Are there any other questions from the council on ordinance 2022-35? Are there any questions from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Blinker?
Aye.
Nardi? Aye. Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On to ordinance 2022-36.
An ordinance fixing the salaries of the appointed officers and employees of the city of Lafayette, Indiana for the year 2023, excluding the sworn protected occupation and law enforcement members of the police and fire departments.
Mr. Clinker.
I could do that. Ordinance 2022 on first reading. Would like to hear
Mrs.
that,
Nardi?
please.
And second.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I've covered this in depth in my presentation, so I'll just, for the record and for transparency, touch on it one more time. This is the ordinance affixing this out of the appointed officers excluding police and fire. And so as we've indicated, these employees will be getting a 5% raise. And we always wish that we could do more, but we have to look long-term. We're very lucky here, even through COVID, those types of things. We had no layoffs. People did not lose work or different things like that. And so we try to do it in a sustainable manner. Also, like I said, we had a couple good years with health insurance that so made the raises that they got really feel like a good raise. And this year, like I said, we do have one of 6.5, but I want to make it clear that the city did not change the parameters. So we pick up 82% of the health and care costs, and the employee picks up 18. And so we kept that the same. We didn't say because it went up 6.5, we're going to only pick up 80, and you've got to pick up 20 now or something. We kept the parameters the same, and we'll absorb 82% of the increase, and the employee will absorb, depending on which plan you're on, of course, the other. And, you know, we pay out $11, $12 million in insurance premiums a year. So I would appreciate your support for this 5% raise for our employees.
Are there any questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-36? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Blinker?
Aye.
Nardi? Aye. Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Ordinance 2022-37.
An ordinance fixing the salaries of the sworn protective occupation and law enforcement full members of the police and fire departments of the city of Lafayette, Indiana for the year 2023.
Mr. President, I move to hear ordinance 2022-37 on first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, just a brief overview. Again, this is the salaries for the police and fire department. As I indicated, by contractual matters, we were required to give a 2% this year. As I indicated, the units agreed to those raises over a period of years to get longevity incorporated into the salaries and to the, as Jerry indicated earlier, to the certified portion of the salary for their pension. But because the money will work out, we're actually going to give them 3%, a percent higher than the contract requires us to do, and we'd appreciate your support of that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public on 2022-37? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Blinker?
Aye.
Nardi? Aye. Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On to ordinance 2022-38.
A An ordinance fixing the salaries of the elected officials of the city of Lafayette for the year 2023.
Mrs. Alsmeyer.
Mr. President, I move we hear and consider ordinance 2022-38.
Second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, this is the salaries for the elected officials. This is the same salary scale as with the civilians, 5%. This is the council, and then Cindy and I are included in this ordinance as we are the two full-time elected officials here at City Hall. And so, as in the past, we have brought this to you and kept it in line with the other city employees.
We still want to give you more money.
Huh?
We still want to give you more money.
No, that's okay.
You probably don't go home much, do you?
Not much.
Ma'am.
Mr. President, I have looked into this, and I had very strong feelings about it, and I do not want to backdoor my fellow council members, but I think the mayor and the city clerk, being full-time elected officials, are certainly, definitely not overpaid. They do a tremendous job for the city. But I did look into it to see if we could perhaps freeze the council pay for this year, and we could do that without changing the pay for the clerk or the mayor. And so I will be voting for this tonight, but I am going to ask consideration of the city council that we freeze our pay at 2022 rates for the second reading.
Are there any other questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-38?
I do have a question about the, do all of these, since we advertised the budget hearing for Thursday, do we have to set a public hearing, or is that what the,
It's already been set
Next.
okay, that's all, okay.
Coming up.
Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure.
in September.
Okay, oh,
Okay. If there are no questions, Madam Clerk?
Blinker,
aye.
Nargi,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Weiss,
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0. But we do need to set a special council meeting for October 20th at 5 PM for the final adoption of our budget and all our other ordinances.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Will that be
at 5?
Yes, 5 PM, yes.
October 20th at 5.
I got it on there, yep. Yep,
20,
I'm good.
right?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-39.
An amendment to ordinance number 2010-11 establishing Louisville Centennial St. James Historic District in the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Mr. President, I move to hear and approve ordinance 2022-39.
Second?
Good evening, John Collier from the Economic Development Department. I'm happy to share with you actually two ordinances tonight, one for a new local district and another for another conservation district. This first one is for the establishment of a local Centennial St. James Historic District, which will include all the properties, almost all the properties that St. James owns. It's probably the largest new local district we've established in several years. Almost a full city block, or huge area, and multiple buildings and multiple parcels. And you have descriptions of those, at least their classification in the ordinance. This includes the church, which is a Gothic revival from about 1872, with an addition in 1965. The parish house, which is a colonial revival, which was built in 1910. The Lutheran school, which was a neoclassical design in about 1914, as well as a couple of properties that are not part of the church itself, but some retail facilities at 716 and 718 North 9th. One is an Italianate about 1870, and the other is a 20th century functional building from about 1910. So the Historic Preservation Commission reviewed this and was thrilled with this, this petition, and they definitely supported it, and they request your support as well.
All right, just one question. Does the fire affect that any?
No, it doesn't. The fire was in the gymnasium, which is a non-contributing building on the site. It's the big metal building that's on the property that doesn't really contribute to the district as it stands today. You bring up a good point, though, because you did probably notice that there are several non-contributing properties or parcels listed in this. And keep in mind that that's okay. Currently, there are either playgrounds or parking lots or green space. But what this does by including them in the district is it means that when and if a new building were to go in there, that it would have to be to the standards of the Historic Preservation Commission, and that it would have to be an attribute to the district. So that's the positive thing.
Mr. Collier, that includes the gymnasium if they were ever to take it down and rebuild, right?
Correct, right.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-39? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Lees?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On to ordinance 2022-40.
An amendment to ordinance number 2010-11 establishing a local South Sixth Street, 402 Lingle Avenue Conservation District in the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
I move we hear ordinance 2022-40.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. John Collier again, here with a conservation district. This is for a single property at 402 Lingle Avenue, which will be known as the South Sixth Street, 402 Lingle Avenue Conservation District. This is a gable front Greek revival that was built in about 1870. The Historic Preservation Commission reviewed this in June of 2022 and recommended to the council that it be approved as a local historic district, and they would appreciate your support on this petition as well.
Are there any questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-40? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Pointer?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Lees?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On to ordinance 2022-41.
An ordinance adopting an investment policy for the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Mrs. Weeks Williamson?
I move that we pass ordinance 2022-41.
Second.
Good evening, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of council. I'm Jeremy Deal, City Controller. You have before you an ordinance requesting adoption of the investment policy. The policy, quite simply, will designate the city controller, and moi, as the investment officer for the city. It will stipulate some permitted investments in accordance with Indiana code, and it will establish a standard for investment management, that being one of a prudent person, and I promise you I will behave as a prudent person. The code sets forth standards for allowable investments, allowable depositories to do business with, and I ask your approval of this ordinance.
So no non-fungible tokens and stuff like that?
No, we're not gonna go there, no.
Just checking. Any questions from the council?
No Bitcoin.
Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-41? Madam Clerk?
Pointer?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Lees?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
On
Thank
to
you.
ordinance 2022-42.
An ordinance for an additional appropriation of American Rescue Plan Grant Fund number 1760.
Mr. President, I move we hear and approve ordinance 2022-42.
Second.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of council. This ordinance is a request for appropriation of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Council has taken many actions regarding American Rescue Plan Act in the past. We had prior adopted a community investment plan, and we had also appropriated our first tranche of our Rescue Plan Act funds, state and local fiscal recovery funds. That first tranche was $7.94 million, and it was identified in the community investment plan to be designated for infrastructure improvements in water, specific projects being the WIA storage tank, improvements to the Glick well field, and improvements in supervisory control and data acquisition, the electronic monitoring equipment for both water and sewer. The council also subsequently amended the community investment plan, and in so doing, they designated that the city would elect to designate a second tranche of $7.94 million as revenue replacement funds. And that's in accordance with the final rule from the Treasury, which allowed eligible entities to designate up to $10 million as revenue replacement as an impact of the global pandemic from the COVID-19 pandemic. So that final rule opened up revenue replacement to take the place of lost revenues and be used for a much wider range of provision of government services. And that is our intention at the city. My request here today is to appropriate $2 million only, just to make it available this calendar year, this budget year, for use, should it be needed to come into play for any infrastructure improvements or specifically road projects that we have ongoing, and the total cost of which is not known just yet. So invoices are coming in. This is a very conservative budget move. I want to have funds available should we need them this year.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on ordinance 2022-42? Ma'am.
Sorry.
Susan Briette, 1002 Highland Lafayette, 47905. You mentioned infrastructure improvements, road funds, any other type of construction?
Not planned just yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Keep our options open. Any other questions from the public? Madam Clerk?
Blinker?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Weiss?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8 to 2.
Since we're spending money, we need to set a public hearing for November 7th at 6:01 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Then we move on to resolutions. Resolution 2022-22.
A resolution approving the deduction for a tax abatement and economic revitalization area, Wabash National LP South Plant personal property.
Pleasure of the council.
Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 2022-22.
Second.
Second. Sir.
Yes, good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. As you may recall, earlier this year, the council approved a personal property abatement for Wabash National. But also, as you know, at the time these are put together, these applications are put together, that these are estimates. And as we know, this past year, things have been very volatile in terms of inflation, supply chain issues, and many other factors and such. So now Wabash National has been able to better refine their investment and such, and they are requesting their abatement to reflect that cost. So it originally was $43 million, and now the request it'd be $70 million is going to be their investment. I'm not going to go into much detail right now because we do have representatives here at Wabash National to explain that in more detail. I also just want to say that this was also taken through the Redevelopment Commission, and they're making a recommendation for approval tonight. And then following Wabash National, the mayor would like to make a few comments as well, too. So I'll turn it over to the reps from Wabash.
Thank
Thank you, Dennis. My name is Justin Ross. I'm Vice President of Tax and Treasury for Wabash. I've been with Wabash for over 16 years now, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk in front of you. Dennis stole all my thunder. I think he read my script or something. I don't have much more to add, but I do appreciate the approval last year. Things have changed over the last year as we learn more and more about the automation and the efficiencies in the process that we need to put in place in our south facility. So the request for an additional abatement is only related to our south facility. And it's effectively in two major buckets. When we came a year ago at this time, we did a lot of work, a lot of research. It was about 80% confidence level as to what the amount of spending was going to be. We've increased a lot of, there's additional costs related to IT infrastructure, safety for our employees as we look to continue to find ways that we make the trailers as safe as we can. So we've increased some of our spend and requirements on safety requirements for the facility. And then as you've heard throughout the whole budget presentation, inflation has impacted us as we start now putting POs in place, start looking at work to be done in the fourth quarter, and continue to see inflation, whether it's electrical, whether it's metal, whether it's, IT equipment. Every cost has gone up from where we were a year ago at this time. I do want to commit that there has been no changes from an employment standpoint. We committed a year ago that we would increase the total employment by 150, 75 at each location of our south and north plant, that we are maintaining that commitment that we had a year ago at this time. So no changes there. We do plan to have the project completed. It's a very quick turnaround. We do plan on having that finished by the end of this year, with job one going off in January of 2023, right after the holidays. So be happy to answer. We can have the mayor step in, and happy to answer any questions that the council may have. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I just want to take a moment to ask for your support for this. Dennis and I have looked through this extensively, and we feel that everything is in line. These are good investments for our community. They are certainly an upgrade and a move into the future for Wabash, which is always important that we have forward-looking companies that are helping plan for the future just like we are. And we've had a long-term relationship, and I think this is another good move to help keep them sustainable and to move us forward as a community. So we certainly would appreciate your support on this resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I take it there are no questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Weiss?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2022-23.
A resolution to transfer appropriations between major budget classifications within Fund 29 and edit.
Pleasure of the council.
I move we hear Resolution 2022-23 on first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I'll let Jeremy get into the more details with it if you need them. We're going to be transferring appropriations from different classifications into edit to cover all those expenses. We were very conservative with our edit appropriation last year, and we're going to need just a little bit more to finish up. The point I want to make is that by doing this, the number that I gave you in the budget, that 6.5 million surplus, that's still intact. That included moving this transfer, and we still have the 6.5 million in surplus. So I wanted to make sure that in transparency to the council that you realize that number does not change because of this transfer. It was taken into consideration as we were doing this process.
Are there any questions from the council? Are there any questions from the public on Resolution 2022-23? There being none, Madam Clerk?
Winkers?
Aye.
Nargi? Aye. Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Wilkinson.
Aye.
Downey.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Onward. Reports of standing committees. Reports of special committees. Reports by the mayor.
No, sir.
Miscellaneous and new business. Reports of councilmen.
I have one little,
Yes, sir.
just like to thank Councilperson Eileen for her long-term serving alum in the poor and needy of our community. And she recently retired from that position, but will be staying with us. So just wanted to recognize her and all her hard work for the people of Lafayette.
Yeah, you retired from Lum. You stuck in that chair.
It's my honor. Thank you, Councilman Klinker.
Mr. President, I would also like to, the fire show, or the Lafayette Fire Show is going on presently at Sunnyside High School. And Wednesday night is open to the public at 6 o'clock. And I think we're doing around 3,800 kids this year. And anybody that's available, come up and I think this is, I don't even remember, it's 26 years, 20, something like that. I've been in it, and it's been pretty rewarding. So anybody that's available, we'd like to see you there.
I'd like to add that I can personally attest to its effectiveness. My college kids were joking the other day that in one of their classes, someone decided to play Achy Breaky Heart, and they all said they only knew it as Don't
They
Play
knew
with
all.
Fire. All these years later, it's still stuck in their minds.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they-
You're moving the needle.
Okay. Gary, thank you for all your years doing that, too.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I don't remember, I think we calculated one time what, we were averaging at one time about 5,000 kids a year, so over 27 years, you know, we've done a lot of children, so. And thank you to the teachers that bring them up and tolerate what's going on. They are all over. It's K through 2, so you can imagine what that is.
Oh,
So-
my.
So,
I think Councilman Aylersmeyer took a few kids to the pumpkin patch today, so she can relate to that.
yeah.
Okay, moving on to public comment. First, I'd like to say we welcome public comment and encourage public participation in this meeting. However, in order for us to proceed efficiently, public comment will be limited to 2 areas of this meeting. First, it will be an opportunity for the public comment on ordinances and resolutions currently before the council. These comments will be limited to 3 minutes in length and must be germane and relevant to the ordinance or resolution. All participants will be required to maintain a high level of civility, respect, and courtesy for everyone present. Any participant who, after being advised, persists in discourteous or in hostile manner will may be asked to leave the meeting. I'm not reading more of that, do we? Public comment. Anybody want to contribute to this meeting? Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. President, if I may also, under Councilman, and I'm sorry to interrupt this, but I would like to congratulate our Waterworks Department because I happen to be a victim of a water main break or a water line break from my meter to my house, and it was monitored very closely by, I was called by Brenda Mailer, I believe it is,
Yep.
Marler,
Yep.
and notified that my usage was over. The assistants from the Waterworks came out, the technicians helped me locate, or they didn't do the locate, but helped me decide that it was my problem, not theirs. And 5 days later, after getting the proper people in there and tolerated, they done an excellent job, both their office staff and field staff. So I'd like to thank them for that.
Sir.
Pearl Speakman, 923 South 22nd Street, Lafayette, Indiana, 47905. First of all, I want to thank the mayor for keeping something in our hands, the blacktopping. And I'm telling you, you'll save money if you keep the tree trimming in your hands too. And that's a simple thing to do. I can do that one-handed. First, in Same problem down in our neighborhood, 22nd Street. We have people that think they got rights, and they do. Boy, they sure do it. 8 to 10 cats, keep your garage door up, feed coons, cats. I walk out my backyard, I carry a shovel. I throw it over in the neighbor's yard, 'cause she's the one bringing all them animals in there. John Vigas and Tracy Vigas has been a thorn in everybody's side. They've got their garage door up, they feed everything, they come and go. Right across the street from me, I was telling the mayor, 919, we got this cancer named Charles in this town. He owns 5 apartments. They all got cockroaches about as big as Cindy. He tells the people he rents to, I'm not gonna get rid of the cockroach, it's your fault. And the guy just moved in and he's already spent money on exterminating, and he's paying $100 a month for him and his neighbor's apartment to be exterminated every month. I know you ain't got the right now and everything, but you guys need to get behind people. I'm damn sure gonna raise some hell. You need the right to inspect these houses. Titan's another one. I've been in Titan's houses, and I've been in one person's house that's got a big business here in town that I won't mention. But he's a slumlord too. We got to get rid of these slumlords. And the boy right across the street from 919, where I'm telling you the roach is at, he's been caught at Columbia Park with guns. And I had trouble one time. And I just told him, I said, when you enter my property or my house, there's new rules. And I said them. And the city police, thank you, under the new chief, they sent a guy down there, and he went over and talked to the old man that's laying there dying, and the prostitute that lives there. And we haven't had too much trouble here lately. But that's what they're letting my neighborhood, used to be a good neighborhood. But it's going to prostitutes, drug dealers, and you have to keep a loaded gun in your house. I've got 3. Now, you shouldn't have to do that. Now, this is every one of your problems, plus mine, plus the mayor's. So all I'm doing is saying, open your eyes up. You're building this new shelter, take care of the cats. Take care of the owners. That's the problem. It ain't the kid's fault, it's the parents' fault. So make these citizens ante up. And if you want to have 10 cats, that's fine. Keep them in your dang house. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more public comment? Mr. Clinker, we will take that.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.